nothing happens randomly, right? Health and happiness aren't random. The body just doesn't decide to go, surprise, you've got cancer, I'm fucking bored, that's nuts. When an atom loses an electron, it then becomes unstable. So it will look to stabilise itself by robbing an electron, essentially off its next door neighbour, like a dirty little thieving fucker.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 73 of the Optimise Me Now podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Keeling, and I'm thrilled to be here with you again today with another phenomenal guest. Remember, if you like the podcast and haven't already done so, please go and leave us a review. Let people know how awesome it is and what you loved about it so that they can find good shit too. And if you want to support the show, you can do so by doing two things. You can download my Bulletproof Business app, which is available now on the Play Store and Google Store. And you can come and support us on Patreon as well. It's just patreon.com/Optimise Me Now. So if you haven't done that already, go and get that done. And let me tell you about the fantastic guest that I have on the show today. Today we have with us Mr. Gareth Riddy, who is an all-round phenomenal human being and basically unfucks people. He's trained people from all walks of life, including helping a world champion kickboxer to win 2 world titles, as well as preparing many mixed martial artists for their appearances in the cage. And when he's not training or treating clients, he likes to drink coffee while glued to his laptop, eating, or indeed having a friendly game of who can strangle who at his local Brazilian jiu-jitsu school. He's treated people for a ton of stuff, including pain, movement problems, vertigo, insomnia, anxiety, pelvic floor issues, you name it. This guy has done it, and he likes to swear, so expect the air to be blue, and if swearing is something that offends you, then you best well fuck off now. Mr. Gareth Riddy, welcome to the show, sir.
Hello, man. Hello. Thanks for having me. Dude.
It's a real pleasure.
Glad to be here.
It's a real pleasure. I've been watching a lot of your stuff online over the last few months, and since we kind of got connected with each other, and I love the authenticity that comes with how you present yourself. You know, you come across as very real, and I think that's something that's desperately needed in the industry right now. But you're not a coach, are you?
No.
So what do you call yourself? You know, you do all of this kind of stuff. Like, how would you describe what you do?
So I don't do anything with training people anymore. I'm completely out of the gym environment now, and have been for a little while. So I am much more of a therapeutic dude, right? So I work primarily, I'm known for kind of my work with chronic pain, chronic illness, and general dysfunction of the body, whether we're neurologically scrambling or whatever. So I work physically, hands-on stuff, like actual touching and shit, but I do it by Zoom as well. So I get the person to do that, right? So I guide them through the process. And my whole job really is, if ever there's an issue with the body, it doesn't matter what the fuck it is. It could be literally anything. It could be fucking, cancer, to anxiety, to bad backs. Doesn't matter what it is. The brain is telling the body to behave that way, right, for a reason. So my whole job is to find out what's going on underneath it all from a communication level. Think of it like an operating system. So I get in on the neurology, the bioelectricity to find out where these miscommunications are, return normal communication so the body can do its thing and actually regulate like it should be able to.
Okay, so you do that through physical touch then?
Yeah.
So is it like massage and acupuncture and that kind of thing, or?
Possibly. Depends on what the person needs. So there is some people get a little bit of tissue work. A lot of it is nerve stimulations and brain exercises and that type of stuff. Looking at clearing up circuitry, because different circuits, different nerve combinations, brain areas and shit do different things together. Do you know what I mean? So if you can find out what circuit's essentially faulty, clear it and it does its fucking thing.
So you're working with the operating system that kind of controls everything else. How do you get through the body to the brain?
Yeah. So, brain scans, is it the EKG?
ECG, is it?
Electroencephalogram or something like that, right? The ones they put the fucking hat on. So that measures the electrical stimulus on the skin, essentially. That's its whole job. It measures on the skin how the brain is proliferating outwards, I guess. So I can do that in reverse by touching those areas on the skin. You get to light up the brain. kind of like playing a fucking human, like person shit, right?
Playing a human, I love it.
So yeah, so this, I use it as an example, right? So because I'm not a brain surgeon, I can't open up the brain and go, I want that fucking bit. But if I know where that part of the brain, what it is involved in physically, then I can stimulate that area physically, and it goes back inwards. Make sense?
Okay, right. So the brain sends out signals that manifest in the body, so
Yeah.
you figure out what that pathway is and stimulate that part of the body so that it sends repair signals back to the brain.
Exactly that. Yeah, yeah. So like, I'll use this as an example, right? So there's a muscle here which pulls the eye inwards. So the muscle, which is basically a cross-eyed muscle, basically, right? Now, because I know where that nerve originates back in the brainstem, I know there's loads of different things that part of the brain is involved in. If I contact it, it will stimulate it back in the brain. So shit like that.
Okay, this sounds like really interesting, but quite complicated at the same time, and it's not something that you see a lot of in the therapy and kind of the treatment world. How did you get into this, and how did you learn everything that you now know that enables you to get the results that you do?
So, well, initially my background was I worked a lot with fighters. I was an MMA guy, rolling floor, strangling people, shit like that. So that was kind of my thing from the personal training days. That was kind of where I veered towards. I was always more interested in performance and athletics type of shit. And I had like a long fucking history of poor health throughout my life before I started actually getting my shit together and getting fit and healthy. Drugs, alcohol, fucking in that hospital, asthma attacks. I had fucking cancer when I was 24. Nearly died a couple of occasions. Anyway, long story short, life happened, right? Which kind of led me towards what I do now. And so what happened is I just started doing courses, and one course led to another. And then my mum died a few years ago, about 6 years ago, actually, come up 7 years now. So we had the conversation before she went, you've got a choice, right? You can have the house, or I'll sell the house, give some to her brother and sister, and then you can have the rest. I was like, I'll do that one, please. We're going to fucking go with that. So that allowed me access to courses that I never had access to before. And I did some shit. Like I went to a couple of courses that I wanted to do for years over in America. And then that led me to another course in Canada, which taught me all about the neurological control with the body in terms of movement. And because I'd done that, Facebook did all its glory with its algorithm, plonked something else in front of me. I was like, ooh, that looks fucking interesting. And I did it, and it was like, the stars aligned, everything opened up. I was like, oh my fucking God, this is it. I'm just doing this shit. Do you know what I mean? And it was all based around getting people moving better and a little bit more functional in the gym. But I just followed that fucking path. And that was it. Like, a purpose came knocking at my door and, oi, you fucking do this now. I was like, all right, sweet, I'm in, sold. And I just ran with it.
So you've obviously had been through some really profound experiences, having cancer at 24 and almost dying a couple of times. Like, what was it that caused all of that stuff to manifest in your life, and how did you shift out of that into who you are now?
Yeah, so I'm a firm believer that nothing happens randomly, right? Health and happiness aren't random. The body just doesn't decide to go, surprise, you got cancer, I'm fucking bored, let's fuck this person up. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't make evolutionary sense as a human being, right? The human being is the most advanced species on the planet. We've got more capacity for complex movement and a brain with almost infinite capacity for creativity and learning and fucking growth, right? So it doesn't make sense for a human being to just fuck up like it does. When you think about the vast majority of people I know are fucked. Walk around town, most of them look fucked. Do you know what I mean? And that's not a random thing. It doesn't make sense for such a magnificent fucking animal that we are to be great for about 20 years and then slowly starts to decline for the next 60, 70. I mean, it doesn't make sense, does it? So my conclusion on that was that we as a species are made for a very different time and environment. Our needs are not being met, and the modern world is fucking mental and very overstimulated, and we get into shit and we all fall to pieces as a result. So that was a really long way of saying my lifestyle, basically. Basically. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it is linked to, obviously, lifestyle, the shit you're taking in, the shit that you're not taking, you should be. Emotional states are fucking massive, absolutely fucking huge. Old past traumas can be massive in our physical health. Something that I learned a few years back is that when we have some kind of traumatic experience, and a lot of animals have this process, right? Is that the animal will run the body will run a certain program to help it recover from said trauma, whatever it is, and then to survive and then recover. So there'll be physiological changes going on, whether it be inflammatory processes, stress hormones, maybe some physiological changes and shit like that. And different traumas have different responses. Now, the problem we have in the modern world is because we're so massively overstimulated, we don't get to that recovery stage sometimes, where it just keeps going on and on and on and on for years, right? Yeah. Something happens in the wild, it kicks off, we go, oh, fucking hell, all trauma, whatever. And then because we're in our natural environment, we're not so stimulated massively, we get what we need, it will go back and we can go about our day, do you know what I mean? Or maybe months later or whatever. But in us, in the human world, because it's frankly fucking mental, something can happen, and then like 10 years later, there's still physiological repercussions from that because it's never fully recovered. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that is really at the essence of all chronic disease and chronic illness and modern illness. It's that fact that we don't get that recovery time.
People think a lot these days that, the illnesses and the ailments and the things that we suffer with are just kind of one of those things. And one of the arguments I hear bandied around is that they've always been, it's always been this way. We track it more. We're more connected now. We're more aware of it. There's more records kept. And that's why it looks like the instances of these things are going up and up. But actually you're coming at it from a different point of view and saying, well, actually, no, it's more connected to our lifestyles and not just the way that, so many people don't get enough physical movement, enough exercise, they're eating shit, but also the stress of modern day life that can have a massive effect on people as well, can't it?
Huge. All organisms, doesn't matter what the organism is, goes through two phases that it's constantly shifting through, right? This could be like a bacteria or something big, like a fucking panda or something. It doesn't matter what, or a tree. They all go through this process, right? They're either going through a process of growth, where it is taken in from the environment to grow and nurture and go about its day, right? Or it is in a period of defense, where all of the resources available for growth are no longer there. They're involved in defense stuff, right? So for us, that's what's known as fight, flight, and rest and digest. Now, no organism is meant for long periods of fight and flight, long periods of defense, because all those resources available for maintenance and regulation and growth are no longer there. They've got shit to do. Do you know what I mean? But we live in a world where we are predominantly in some sort of defense mode and not so much in growth mode, which means that all those resources are taken away from our digestive system, our immune system, a lot of our brain function. All those resources are not there to help us regulate. We're too busy trying to deal with the threat, perceived or otherwise. And that has a knock-on effect to your fucking life.
Yeah, just before we carry on, mate, I don't know where your mic is, but it seems to be rubbing either on your sexy little stubble there or perhaps on your T-shirt.
I'll hold it up. Yeah.
You're a legend.
Yeah. No worries.
So, what is it that people are doing that is causing all of the suffering, the ailments, the disease that we see today? And how can people live better? How can people live differently? What's some really practical things that we can do right now?
Yeah, so practical. So there's a couple of things that I teach, like I wrote about in my book, and whenever I talk, I always make sure I teach at least 2 of these fucking things because they're so important, right? And there's other shit as well. But the long and short of it is, we need to take control. We need to live deliberately, because if we live randomly and expect it to go away, it won't. Do you know what I mean? Right. Anyway, what was I saying? Right. So anything we can do to take down the overstimulation is massive. So like meditation, absolutely fucking crucial in this day and age because it's fucking nuts out there. To create some space, right? Grounding, barefoot earthing. You know about that? Barefoot earthing,
yeah. But tell the audience about it, man.
Yeah, I will. Because
it sounds like some of this stuff sounds a bit fucking woo-woo, a bit like the secret-y kind of stuff. But it's really based in some really solid science.
Yeah, exactly. So grounding, earthing, I call it grounding because in my book and in the shit that I teach, I've put it all into a system known as the Gareth principles, right? So I wedged it all in the letters of my name just because I thought it was funny and makes it easy to teach, right? So I always go with grounding, but it's more commonly known as barefoot earthing. So the earth is a big electromagnetic ball, essentially, right? And all life is electromagnetic in nature. There's a constant flow backwards and forwards between the earth and all living things through the conductive nature of life, right? And we know life is conductive because if you get electrocuted, you've got to poke someone with a fucking broom. You can't touch them with your hands because you get electrocuted. Right? We know that. Right? That's common knowledge. But us living in the modern world, we became cut off because we live in houses, we're in cars, trains, whatever. Our shoes are made of rubber. We're no longer in contact with the earth anymore. I think it was about the 50s or 60s, something like that. Shoes were made of leather, which is a little bit more conductive because it's made of natural materials. So we became cut off essentially, and that's a problem. A, because we're not getting the good stuff, but also because we're not discharging, because we're surrounded by artificial electromagnetic fields and Wi-Fi and all that type of stuff, and it's got nowhere to go. It just causes issues. But the big thing with it, with earthing, bare earthing, grounding, Gareth principles, right, is that the Earth is a massive source of free electrons. So I mean, electrons that aren't bound up within the atoms. So atoms, everybody knows what atoms look like, or they've seen pictures of atoms, the old cartoons or whatever. So the dots that fly around on the outside of atoms, they are electrons. Now, atoms lose electrons all the time out of day-to-day processes, right? It's just what's known as oxidative stress, essentially. It's just fucking normal, right? But when an atom loses an electron, it then becomes unstable. So it will look to stabilize itself by robbing an electron essentially off his next door neighbour, like a dirty little thieving fucker, right? And that will create a chain reaction of events of atoms robbing the shit out of each other till everyone has enough electrons, or the thing just breaks down, degenerates. Right. Okay, this is free radical damage. Okay, when it degenerates, cellular damage, all that type of stuff comes.
So it turns your cells into little fucking criminals. And
exactly.
They're just doing each other over all the time.
They're just fucking each other up. Yeah, exactly. They're fucking the whole thing up as the thing degenerates and cellular damage occurs and free radical damage happens. And all inflammation is essentially a lack of electrons. It's being electron deficient, right? So this is why people age at different rates, depending on the lifestyle that they're living, how much electrons they're getting in, but also what they're doing to expend electrons, such as smoking, stress, shit food, blah, blah. So some people, like the people my age, will face like a moccasin. And there's other people that look all right. It depends on how they look after themselves, right?
Yeah.
So we can get electrons either from antioxidants, which are electrons in food form, from our diet, and also through the direct conductive nature of the earth, such as barefoot earthing, getting out on the grass with our skin, or touching trees, or leaning against a bush, or whatever it is.
So tree hugging is a real legitimate thing.
It's a real legitimate thing. It sounds hippie as fuck, but when you really think about it, you're like, fucking hell, it makes so much sense. There was a time where all life was connected, and we're not anymore. Do you know what I mean? And if I say to you, think about somewhere where you feel truly relaxed and at peace. Well, I know what you'll say. You're probably going to say a fucking mountain.
Oh, yes.
Facebook. But most people, they want to be outside. They want to be out with nature. They want to be in the sea. They want to be in the woods, in the forest, in the mountains, whatever. It's our natural fucking state, and we act like we're not a natural being. And that's really at the root of all our fucking issues.
See, a couple of years ago, I was thinking about this whole tree hugging thing. And I remember being up a small hill, not a mountain, a small hill. And just thought, fuck it, do you know what? I'm going to do some hippie shit today. I'm just going to stand here and hug this fucking tree. And I felt really stupid because it felt so fucking good, man. Like, just wrapping my arms around the trunk of this tree, and you're thinking, Jesus, this is such hippie shit. But then it just felt so fucking good. Yeah, you're getting all the good stuff, And different trees actually feel different as well. If you put your hands on them, you can feel their energies. They're like very different. Like, the difference between an ash tree and a fucking oak tree is markedly different. Okay, wow.
It's really bizarre. I don't know why, but ash trees, they're known as the widow maker because their branches all of a sudden just drop. They crack and they drop, so you're not meant to camp under them.
Right.
I don't know if there's some kind of circulatory stuff going on in those trees compared to other trees.
Well, I've seen some research as well where they were measuring the electrical current or output of trees and plants, and they do actually give off, they've got power, they give off electrical currents, and I just thought, fuck hell, that's mad. And is that then creating that conductivity that's helping to bring those good electrons into your system? Exactly that.
Yeah, and the earth is electrically charged, and all life is. When you think about how much lightning hits the earth constantly all over the world, it's charged up all the time.
Yeah, and you could go on further than that as well and look at the interactions with space and the sun and the coronal mass ejections and all that shit that's hitting our planet all of the time, and all of
Exactly.
those intergalactic particles and gamma rays and all this shit is constantly feeding into this system, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. We're part of a system within a system. Absolutely, yeah. Like photons charging everything, and it's essentially all life. Like, let's talk about antioxidants in food. That food comes from the earth, so where's it getting it from in the first place?
Hmm. So we've got this electromagnetic planet, and then we're connected. Even the planet's connected electromagnetically to the star and to all the other things in the solar system. And then you can look at. There's a really cool image on you look up on Google, I guess, but it shows the electromagnetic pathways of the entire observable universe, and it's fucking crazy how that looks so much like a brain.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
macro and the micro, and how similar that all is together. And even you were talking before about, everyone knows what an atom looks like. You've got the protons and the neutrons as the nucleus, and then these fucking little electrons that are flying around like little planets. That's just like, you look at that on a bigger scale. That's the solar system. That's the galaxy. That's the universe, man.
yeah. Everything seems to be like that. A small version of the bigger, and it goes on and scales up and up and up.
So, like, how do people wrap their heads around this kind of stuff? Because, like, there's going to be people listening to this thinking that we're off our fucking rockers. Like, how can they go out and verify this for themselves?
Yeah, get on the internet. So when I first started doing it, I started measuring my blood pressure. So that was like the easiest one. Pick up a blood pressure one, they're real fucking cheap, right? And it's like 15 quid, something like that. So I was measuring my blood pressure before and after, and every time it dropped. I was like, that's pretty fucking cool.
Oh, wow.
So then I started doing it with my clients. Same thing. It dropped. I was like, that's really fucking interesting. And somebody, actually, I did a live with somebody, Carl Pate. Do you know Carl Pate?
Yeah, I know Carl. He's coming on the podcast in a few weeks, actually.
Is he? Awesome. Yeah, I did a live here. I was telling him about it. And then he actually did it himself, because Carl, being like from an accountancy type background, he loves numbers and measuring shit. Do you know what I mean? And he did the same thing. He actually put it in my book review on Amazon. I was like, that's fucking cool.
Oh,
so
awesome.
It's very, very measurable in that respect alone, but also just in how you feel more relaxed, inflammation comes down, you sleep better, all that type of shit. But it's not so much that it helps sleep, but it helps blood pressure and it helps inflammation and all that type of shit. It's that a lack of it is a problem, and we lack it.
You mentioned inflammation a few times there now, and I know from my own studies and where I've looked into this, that actually most problems, most diseases, most issues that we find within the human body is a result of inflammation, right? So the main goal here has got to be, if you want to live better, if you want to live healthier, the single goal could be expressed as, right, we need to focus on how we can bring that inflammation down. So
yeah,
in a world where it is full of shit food, full of alcohol, and I'm actually I've decided, right, I'm not drinking at all this year. I'm going to go the whole of 2020 with no booze. And 17 days in now, I feel great. Not that I felt shit before, but I just feel good, man, And I can't I'm sat here thinking, right, well, when I get to the end of December 2020, what am I going to do then? Go and have a binge, go and get back on it in 2021. And at this stage, I honestly can't see why I would go back to it. Like, because you can still be social, you can still go out with your mates and have a fucking good time and have a laugh. Life it just seems so much more bright and more vibrant without that toxicity, those toxins in your system. And I think
definitely.
I think for me, it was a realization as well that actually I was using that as more. It wasn't a social tool, and I think this is what a lot of people can get confused about as well, is thinking, oh yeah, well, we're just being social, we're going out and have a good time, and that's a part of that. I think it's actually more about a level of escape to certain different degrees for different people, but I think I recognise in myself that it was definitely a way to just switch off and get this myopic focus on something that was just took me away from all of the shit of everyday life.
Yeah, fucking hell, 100%, man. Yeah, I agree with that completely. Yeah, for most people, I'm not a big drinker. I'll drink on occasion if I haven't seen someone for a long time, but on the whole, I don't like doing anything that's going to make me feel shit, because then it has a knock-on effect to how I work with my clients, which means if I do a load of shit at work, then I'll have to go and get a real job, and I'm not totally unemployable. So my whole job is to try and mitigate that. So if I'm going to drink, it's got to be worth it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not just going to have a beer or drink at home. Do you know what I mean? It's got to be, okay, I'm going to feel shit. I'm going to go out and I'm going to fuck with my mates because I haven't done it for 6 months or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and to do it every now and then. But like, if you're going to do it fucking properly, right?
Exactly. Balls deep, never just a tip.
Mate. Balls deep, that's it. There's lots of negative effects of booze in particular. You know, it's one of those booze and fags, alcohol and tobacco. They're two things that for me, and I've dabbled in both of them over the course of my life. You know, I used to be a smoker years ago, so I get it, and I get having been a smoker and now being an ex-smoker. They're two things for me that it baffles my fucking mind that they're still legal, still promoted, still so socially acceptable. Perhaps in a diminishing way these days as more and more people get turned onto it, but they're so damaging, man. They're so detrimental to health and life in general. It's just crazy that people still use them so much in their lives.
Yeah. Well, you know, that can be said to a lot of things, can't it? You know, shit food or even fucking pharmaceuticals. When you think about how that works for most people, I mean, there's a whole lot of things. I went to a seminar a couple of years ago by Dr. John DeMartini. Do you know the guy?
Legend. Fucking smart guy.
Lego hair.
Yeah.
Lego hair. He's like my fucking hero. There is no higher power than that man. You know, I love the dude. He's fucking amazing. But he said something which kind of really shifted me. And he was talking about the pharmaceutical industry, but this has like a lot of carryover to this subject. And he said that the pharmaceutical industry, they're not there to take advantage of people. They're not there to fuck people up. Like I might just say it in my way. But he said they exist to serve the needs of those that won't govern themselves. And I was like,
ooh, that's some deep
shit.
I mean?
Yeah, and I was like, that's fucking true. Because people blame them, or they blame the alcohol, or they blame the nicotine, and all that type of stuff. But ultimately, it falls down to the fact that people are not governing themselves.
Yeah, that's
if
so
people don't govern
true.
themselves, then they're going to look for these things, or they're going to live in these things.
It seems crazy to me as well. You talk about the pharmaceutical industry, and I totally agree with that. You know, it's absolutely down to you to take personal control and responsibility over your own fucking shit, right? But when you look at the, you know, certain things like the industrial war complex and pharmaceuticals are a couple of those, it just seems such a conflict of interest that they're for-profit organizations, like, and there are big CEOs from certain pharmaceutical organizations who've said, look, we serve shareholder profit, not fucking making people better, man, you know? And I just wish more people would fucking wake up and realize that shit. You know, how many people in the Western world these days are addicted to some sort or dependent, reliant on some sort of pharmaceutical drug?
It's a lot. Do you know what I mean? And the amount of people that are actually get their shit solved with drugs is fucking slim. You know, I could probably count on one hand the amount of people that have gone on to some kind of pharmaceutical approach. And they thought, fucking hell, it's brilliant. I feel amazing.
Yeah.
Sweet. I don't have to do anymore again. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you end up getting like more problems,
long-term.
More drugs to solve those extra problems. So you can be on, like, you see people in their like old age and they're on like 5, 10, 15 different fucking pills every single day. What kind of a fucking life is that, man?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You just end up in a cycle, you know. To quote Biggie Smalls, the famous Biggie Smalls song, "Mo pharmaceuticals, mo problems." Slight change.
There was an interesting. I was at a mastermind yesterday with the Expert Apps team, and there's a guy there called David Griffiths. I don't know if you know him. If you don't, you should connect with him because he's fucking immense. But he did, I think it was about a 90-minute talk on health and nutrition. And he was talking about, gave us a stat about statins, right? And he said that when you look at the data, people who take statins, it actually only extends their life by about 5.3 days.
Sweet.
And you're thinking, fucking hell, man, like all those years of taking that shit, all the other problems they cause, and then all the other shit they've got to take to solve those other problems, it's like downward spiral for 5.3 fucking days.
Wow, yeah. And overall quality as well.
Well, yeah, quality of life just plummets.
Yeah, madness.
So it just goes to show, like, the Oh man, I haven't even got any words for it. Like, people just get sucked into this westernized way of thinking, and I suppose that's what's really cool about what you do as well, is that you're really getting to the source of the fucking problem, rather than what most people do, and what it seems a lot of the medical profession seems to do is like, right, what are the symptoms? Let's just put a fucking band-aid over that shit, rather than find out, well, why are people actually feeling this way? Like, why is this happening? Why are they diseased? Why are they having all these problems? What's the root cause? And dealing with that. I suppose part of the reason is it ain't fucking profitable.
No, and it's very difficult. You can't patent it because everybody's problems are so fucking different. Is the thing. So from a scalable mass fucking multi-billion-dollar business, it makes it very difficult. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas if you can blanket prescribe thousands of people some crap, happy days. That's good business. That makes sense, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? From a business perspective.
From a profit perspective, yeah. But then, you know, there's instances where companies have created or been in the process of developing certain drugs, and they found that actually, yeah, this does solve the root cause, the root problem. So it's actually going to fucking solve it for people and cure people, and then you just drop it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. What's the other saying? Give a man a fish and you'll feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you've lost a business opportunity. Yeah. I heard a quote. I was working with a dude a few years ago, and he did a lot with our oncology and stuff. I can't remember the actual figure. The point is just it's very low. And he said that the percentage of people that actually come out of chemotherapy and with no relapse or survive is like 2%.
I've heard the same statistic, 2%, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, fuck it. And that's the gold standard. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most people, they get like something will come back, funnily enough, because your immune system's been fucked right up the arse. Do you know what I mean? It's not fucking surprising, is it? I was like, fucking hell, and that's considered the gold standard in this day and age. That's fucking mental. Yeah,
it's crazy when you think about it. Let's take this disease where we've got these cell mutations, fucked up DNA, and let's inject that fucker with some radiation, son. And fuck up everything.
Yeah. We'll sort you right out. Ta-da! You're cured. Oh, brilliant. Thanks.
It's just nuts. But then, you know, I've thought often, like, what would I do if I found myself in a situation where I found out I had some sort of cancer? Would I think fuck it and go and get chemo just because that's the done thing, and then question all of this other stuff I've learned and heard just because it isn't mainstream? And that's part of the problem for people, I think, isn't it? It's because all this is still relatively fringe stuff. It's not accepted mainstream. You know, you go and have a conversation like this with your doctor, it ain't going to go down very fucking well. No.
And the thing is when we're in a state of threat, and I'll use fear in this instance, but stress generally, we cannot take on anything new mentally, right? So the brain, like the frontal cortex of the brain, like the big bit up here, where all our logic, reasoning, creativity, or our executive functions are, when the body is under some kind of threat, all that will get diverted away to more into the brainstem, where we're more reactionary and reflexive, right? And the reason that happens is because the big part of the brain where all this stuff is slow. You haven't got time to work shit out. You've got a fucking threat to deal with. So it goes back to the quicker, just fucking do shit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what that means is that when we are in a state of stress, such as fear of cancer, for instance, it means that because all this is gone, we cannot use reasoning and logic and creativity and any of that. It's gone. That just means that we cannot take on anything new. So we can only play patterns. And those patterns are just going to be, say yes, just fucking let them do whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? It's impossible to think anything otherwise. When you're on that back foot so much, you can't think clearly anyway.
Yeah, man, because like it could be the difference between life and death. And you're like, if I make the wrong fucking call here, I'm dead. And so it's like, right, default to someone who's got perceived authority, perceived credibility, who's supposed to know what the fucking talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally, man. I mean, if it happened to me again, I would 100% go, fuck you, am I doing that shit again? I'd do it myself. I'd get some people that I know and fucking crack on and deal with it. No way I would walk that again. No way. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm glad that I did because it taught me so much.
Yeah. So when you had cancer when you were 24, like what was that process like for you, and what did you do to get through that?
So, I mean, 24 years old, I wasn't fucking healthy by any means. I mean, actually, I just started getting into the gym. So I was probably about a year into the gym. I was a doorman at the time, and I had a few kind of asthma attacks, not asthma attacks, but, wheezing fucking scenarios mid-fight, which, is difficult, to say the least. So
no
it kind of got a little bit problematic trying to have an inhaler break mid-mini right in a nightclub. And my old boss suggested I go to a gym quite sternly. So I did. And that kind of changed me a lot. I was like, fucking hell, I've actually got some control over my life. I'm not this fat, wheezy fucking fuck that I always thought that I was. Do you know what I mean? Because I didn't play PE in school. I didn't play football with the other kids. I fucking had to play with the girls half the time. Which was when you're a kid and you're literally made to go and play with the girls. That's a bad fucking thing, 6, 7, 8 years old. Go play with the girls. I'm like, fucking hell. So it knocks me a lot. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, where was I going with this? Yeah, so point being, I was just getting into the fucking health and fitness, and then it appeared. I was like, whoa. And so what happened is I had like a big lump come up my neck, like the mumps, but on one side. It's a bit weird, like a wonky mump, right? Like I had like half a tennis ball stuck on my neck, and it came up, and then it went down again. And then it came up again about a couple of months later, maybe, something like that. So I went to the doctors, and he like lanced it, sucked all the shit out. And there was like a little bit left. He went, right, it's been all tested, it's all good. What we're going to do is we're going to take out that little bit in 6 weeks' time. I was like, okay, awesome, sweet. And I think it was probably nearer 3 months by the time we took it out. Don't really remember that clearly, to be honest. And it was only like a tiny little bit. I went and took it out. I woke up like a big fucking, about 3-inch scar, 3-4-inch scar. We'll go 3-inch scar on my throat. I was like, fucking hell, that's cool. We get a massive scar for a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Didn't really think of anything of it.
Yeah.
I had to go and have like follow-up appointment the next week, basically. And so I went in, like I sat down, and the consultant, who always looked like he had glasses on, but he never did. Do you know what I mean? People like look over there, imagine with glasses. So he did that. Never wore fucking glasses. Never understood that. Anyway, he's like, surprise, you got cancer, type thing. And I was like, fucking hell. So that obviously it hit me right in the nutsack. And like the whole world fucking turned in, and I went, everything went black and white. It was really weird. Anyway, so I went from there. I had to have another operation where they found the root of it. It started with my tonsil, apparently. And then I had to go and have 6 weeks of radiotherapy where they basically just cooked me for 6 weeks.
Fucking hell.
And that was preventative, right? So it's gone by that point. They're like, oh, yeah, it's all gone. We're just going to give you radiotherapy as a preventative. 24 years old, you don't question anything the doctor says. Do you know what I mean? Particularly not when you're licensed on the balance. Like, all right, cool, do that. And they did. I lost loads of fucking weight because I couldn't eat. Well, I could eat, but it was painful because the burns, they like develop over time. There's so many in my throat. I was having to like try and live off ice cream, but even that really hurt, trying to keep my weight up. So yeah, it was fucking mental. It was a rough time. And my face never recovered. I've got loads of muscle wastage around one side of my neck and all that type of shit. Yeah, pretty brutal.
Bloody hell. Like, I can't even imagine going through 6 weeks of radiotherapy like that. And so because there's chemotherapy and there's radiotherapy, isn't there? What's the difference between the two?
Yeah, so chemo's drug based.
Right.
They basically poison it out. Radio, they burn it out. The radiotherapy is, the therapy itself is painless, the actual process, but it develops over time. Right? The radiotherapy is just like having a long X-ray.
So they point a fucking ray gun at you and just zap the shit out of you.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So I had to lay on a table. I had like this mask made, and so it's like a mould of my head where it was all lined up where they had to zap, right? And I was attached to this bed by this mask. It's like a real fucking freaky thing. And they'd like zap me for about half an hour, something like that. I had to do that 5 days a week for 6 weeks. And over time, the burn started progressing. But the first couple of times, I was like, oh, this is all right. It was really weird, right? Being sat in a waiting room, surrounded by fucking old people at 24 years old. You're like, fucking hell, this is fucking, yeah, weird. Weird to know. Actually, I was the youngest person ever to have that kind of cancer.
Wow.
And I think I'm still using the textbooks to this day. I know it was about 5 years ago. I don't think they use my actual name, though, so that's shit. I'd like to change that because that'd be good for branding.
Always seeing the positives.
Yeah, I could use that. Oh, it's amazing.
So at this point in your life, you're working on the doors. You're a doorman. Like, what's that like as a lifestyle?
What, doorman lifestyle?
Yeah, doorman lifestyle.
It was all I knew. Do you know what I mean? Because I was unemployable, basically. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't get up in the morning. I had a long history of fucking drugs and pretty dodgy shit. So when I found a job where I didn't have to get up in the morning, I was like, oh, this is fucking great. This is brilliant. And I had to do fuck all half time. But it became my life very, very quickly. Yeah, and I did it for on and off about 17 years. So it's a long time. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I went through a lot of changes within that. I had about a 5-year break at one point. But it was weird because it taught me so much about confidence. Not even confidence really, but really facing my fucking fears. Do you know what I mean? Because it's fucking terrifying. Often you go through like three main emotions on the doors. You've got absolutely fucking terrifying, hilarious, or boredom. They're the three main things that you cycle through on the doors. Do you know what I mean?
So even that on its own is like, that must be pretty intense in terms of like the levels of stress and shit and the stress hormones you're generating, like going from peaks and troughs of like fucking terrified to hilarious to fucking terrified to bored.
Yeah, it was crazy. When I think about it now, fucking up, I put myself through that shit day in, day out. And the worst thing was, not like, even when something happens, like say some big kickoff or something, that wasn't even the worst bit. The worst thing was if you knew something was going to happen. Do you know what I mean? Or there were people in that you knew were trouble or whatever, and it was that anticipation. When it actually happened, you just went in and dealt with it, which is pretty much how it is with life. And the anticipation is much worse than the actual thing.
Yeah.
Anticipation is a killer because you've got nowhere to run. You have to stay there. It could be like you get another 3 hours left at the light. It's a lot of adrenaline. Yeah, that was educational, should we say? But it taught me a lot about myself, patience, and that I can face shit when I need to. Do you know what I mean?
So does it kind of get you involved in almost to see the underbelly of the world then, with the people that you see coming through the door and start get associated with those kinds of people? Or did you manage to stay fairly removed from all of that?
I managed to stay fairly removed from all of that, yeah. I mean, you'd see it, a lot of like the old football hooligans and stuff and, the drug dealers and shit. But you'd be around it a little bit, but on the whole, it wasn't that bad.
So did you ever have to eject like some like fucking nasty dudes who were in gangs and doing some bad shit, and would there be repercussions on you then because of that, because you were just doing your job, or did they kind of respect it?
I was very lucky that never happened to me. I had a few threats here and there, like people loitering outside, but it was more threatening than anything. They never actually really did anything.
Yeah.
As long as you were fair, it wasn't really an issue. It depended on who you were and who you knew, and sometimes other people would calm it down and shit like that. I mean, on the peripheries, like maybe days later.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was very, very lucky in that respect.
So what was the worst thing that you saw or had to deal with?
Worst thing I had to deal with? Fucking hell. I could tell you the funniest thing I had to deal with.
Let's have that one.
I tell you, my proudest door moment, right? I was walking through the club one night, and some guys ran to a really fucking busy, we had like 1,200 people capacity, and this guy, he like dropped his trousers on the dance floor, had his knob out, and was swinging it around like hilariously for the girls. So I was like, "Ooh,
I bet they loved it."
Interesting. Yeah. So I walked up behind him, I grabbed his wrists and pinned him to his sides, and I made him hop all the way out, and I wouldn't let him put his trousers up. So it was fucking brilliant. I made him hop all the way past the queue, and he was like trying really hard to pull his trousers up. That's my favourite moment. I still don't know who the guy is to this day. I bet he remembers me. So that was quite cool. Yeah, I don't know. There's been so many, but it just kind of becomes a bit of a blur. We had like a guy die outside one of the clubs that I worked in. That was a crazy time.
Fucking hell.
This guy, it was like there'd been a fight inside, right? And one guy got whacked and got thrown out, or he hit somebody else and got thrown out. Now the friend of the guy who actually got hit inside ran out to play the hero and look after his mate basically. So he ran out, took a swing at this guy. The guy had been thrown out. The guy had been thrown out, ducked, hit the guy behind him, and the guy behind him hit his floor on the head, hit head on the floor and died. I'm like, fucking hell, crazy shit. Just like that, you know, it was like in a blink of an eye. So it's fucking crazy how fragile life can be, you know. I remember some guy getting run over outside a club. That was pretty mental.
What, just pissed, staggering in the road, or?
Yeah. Just fucking whacked him, got knocked up in the air, so we had to like give him CPR and all that type of shit. That was pretty hectic, you know. What else happened? Oh, we used to have this really good little office, right, where you'd have to keep people sometimes for the police.
Right.
I met this guy in there one day, and the police were in there. It was like a medical room that we used to use for tea and coffee and stuff like that. And the police were in there with this guy. It's like a tiny, like a cupboard basically. And they were in there, and I had really bad flatulence. So I just opened the door, just aimed it, and then just shut the door. Really, really stinking. That was one of my favourite.
You fucking child.
Yeah, that was really good. Yeah, that was cool.
What was your relationship like with the police then? Like, in terms of like you had the dealings that you had with them, but also how you ended up thinking about them?
Depended on the police, you know. I mean, I knew some great ones. I also knew some that were utter dickheads, you know. And it varied from town to town as well, you know. Because when it was in my local town, you get on most of them, the good ones, and then you get some that had a vendetta, you know. So it varied from person to person, you know. Some do a great job. It's like anything. Some are great, some are turds.
Yeah.
I mean, I have seen it before where that was like a big incident where the doormen are in there trying to split this incident up, and the police have run in and pepper sprayed everybody. I'm like, you fucking dick. What? that wasn't helpful.
Fucking
Thanks.
But generally speaking, they'd be working with you and trying to be helping you out.
Yeah, I think so on the whole. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So what was the big thing that made you leave all that behind then?
It wasn't really a big thing. It was more of a long, slow process of just being unhappy with the constant arguments and the fucking stress and the violence and the late nights and stuff. And that just kind of, I wanted a way out. So I started learning about the gym, and then I started working in the gyms. So I had a kind of a transition period of quite a few years before I went fully into gyms. And then I was still doing like a little bit on the side. And then when my mum died, when I went back after that, I was like, I can't fucking do this shit anymore. My body just couldn't handle the late nights anymore.
Right.
Like, do I really want to be up arguing shit with pissed people after this? No. So that was it. I didn't bother going back.
So were you predominantly nocturnal then when you were doing the door stuff? Like up through night and sleeping in the day?
Well, I was still working doors, gyms as well. So I was working in the fight gym at the time.
Right.
So I had to be like by, 10, 11, something like that. But when you're working till 2, 3, don't get home till 4, it's less than ideal. So I was pretty drained, but not realising it.
That must take a huge toll physically, mentally.
Yeah, it totally did. Yeah, I didn't realise it at the time. It's not till you come out the other side, like, fucking hell. Is this what it looks like?
Because sleep's pretty fucking important.
Sleep is very fucking important. Which brings me on to the other subject that I was going to say, the two things that I always teach. Sleep. Should we talk about sleep, shall we?
Let's talk about sleep.
Sure. Let's talk about sleep, right? Let's talk about light in particular.
I've got 6 kids, so I'd love to know more about how I get more fucking sleep.
Yeah, so sleep. So our body clock, theoretically, is tied into the light and dark cycles of the earth, right? Day and night, waking to sleep, light and dark, right? Now, all life is tied in to the light and dark cycles of the earth in some way. No matter what it is, everything goes through some kind of cycle, right? Now, the problem we have is living in the modern world is we're surrounded by artificial light at the wrong time, like all the time, telling our brain it's daytime when it's not, right? So when it's daytime, our brain activates, and it'll be a cascade of different neurotransmitters and hormones and activating stuff because we've got shit to do. It's daytime. It's like daytime stuff, right? Yeah. And at night time in the darkness, we'll say to our brain, "Oi, chill the fuck out," and it will change its hormones and neurotransmitters and all that type of stuff to get us to rest and digest and repair and regenerate and all that type of shit. But because we're so inundated by artificial light, we are essentially telling our brain it's the wrong time of day when it's not. So we have all these cascades of hormones and neurotransmitters and all that type of shit going on. And that's very problematic.
So that's like phones, laptops, TVs, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the big fucking problem is artificial blue light, which is on backlit screens. Yeah, that's the biggest culprit, or the most problematic culprit, because it's everywhere. But the blue light on it is much stronger than it is within the full spectrum of the rainbow blue light.
Right.
And also, it doesn't come with the others as well. So it's much more aggressive to our physiology. And our body clock isn't just about sleep. It's also, a whole host of physiological processes that are tied into that in terms of our, how we regulate. So our liver metabolizing our stress hormones and metabolizing our sugars, our blood sugar. So that's a big issue. Those two alone, and that's fucking massive if they're not being metabolized properly, right? Thyroid hormones being metabolized and regulated. So our metabolism, our energy. Sex hormones, so for women, like menstrual cycles, fertility, that type of stuff. For men, the ability to be able to get it up and fucking, instead of posting a marshmallow, and then we've got all our fucking brain health. Yeah. When I do this piece on stage, I have been known to use a marshmallow. Yeah, I like props. And then we've got all like the brain health stuff as well. Yeah, so if a guy's waking up in the morning without a fucking temp hold going on, there's something hormonally going on. Do you know what I mean? It's something occurring. And then all our brain health as well. So all the stuff, the brain's clearing out all the debris and inflammatory processes are going on and all that type of shit, or anti-inflammatory, I should say. All that shit is going on in the brain, and our chemistry is all being balanced and all that type of shit. So if we're not asleep at the right time, the body becomes out of sync and it's not doing the thing at the right time. That becomes a problem. That's all our fucking function, right?
Yeah.
And you think of all those things that I mentioned, that is potentially a lot of people that are on long-term medication that don't need to be, just because they're out of whack with their body clock, with their circadian rhythm. It's what's known as a circadian mismatch, essentially. Yeah. And that's a big fucking problem. Huge. Do you know what I mean? In terms of effect on people, like, there are two big things, right, in terms of health. Like, one is traumas, or our emotional state, I should say, past traumas, maybe present, I don't know. Emotional state in general has such a massive effect on our physiology, but also our circadian clock, how well synced we are to our circadian clock, our body clock, how well synced we are, how well we're sleeping. And those two things are massive.
So how much should we be sleeping? Like, what's the best time to be going to bed, or does that change from person to person?
It doesn't change, really. Ideally, people be in bed by about kind of 10-ish, something like that. But the big thing is, if we lived ideally, right, which is not going to fucking happen, let's face it, it would vary from season to season, right? So in the wintertime, we'd be getting more sleep because we've got more darkness. Right. And in the summer, we'd be getting less sleep. And that's just part of the cycle. And there's different things going on, temperature changes and, different nutrients and shit, and light exposure are all very different. The thing is to be in bed at a decent time at night, get some fucking sleep, regardless. So if you're up past midnight, then that's going to be problematic. If you're shining a fucking light in your face at night, that's going to be problematic. Even if you sleep, is the quality of sleep that good? How are you feeling in terms of rested and repaired and that type of stuff,
And is that down to how much like REM sleep that you get, and like what's the difference between different types of sleep then, and how much of each should you be ideally looking to get?
I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, I don't know. I've read it several times, but I never actually paid attention to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was, I love that you're honest about it rather than feeding me some fucking bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, REM's obviously important, totally, but it's not so much as when as how much. It's more when.
So I know
that's
a lot of people like saying, "Oh, get to bed for 10 o'clock." Would be like, well, no, I can't sleep at 10 o'clock. I'd just be going to bed and lying awake and fucking just twiddling my thumbs and getting frustrated. And of course, if you're lying in bed getting frustrated because you're not sleeping, you're not going to fucking sleep because you're frustrated and pissed off. So
yeah,
what advice would you give to those people?
Yeah, so a lot of it is just about really syncing. If you're synced, it's not an issue. If you're out of sync, it is an issue. Do you know what I mean? So it's really learning to sync your body clock, like night shift workers. if anybody works night shifts, fucking quit, because there's a problem. People that do like long haul flights and that type of stuff, they're constantly putting themselves in a state of jet lag. And that's what jet lag is a body clock being out. And that's problematic from the health perspective, right?
So night shift stuff for you would be like, just fucking no.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Fuck off. It's not happening, right? I'd be looking at making sure that I get up and go to bed at the same time each day, regardless of whether it's a weekend or not. Yeah. Because you want to be keeping that rhythm. You don't want to be giving yourself jet lag every fucking weekend for the sake of a piss up.
Yeah.
I'm not saying completely abandon your social life. There are times when you will need to go out and do stuff, like you can't say, sorry, I can't come to your wedding because I've got to go to bed. Do you know what I mean? But just be a little bit more strategic about it. Just a little bit more. And really it's a case of asking what's more important to you. Is it more important to stay up a little bit later on fucking Facebook or your gaming or your TV? Or is it more important to actually feel better overall? So that's kind of, I would be questioning that. There's a lot of people that say they're night owls, but I don't really think that they are, because I used to think that I was, but that was just the life that I'd led. I'd never actually learned this stuff, right?
So it was a habit.
It was absolutely 100% a habit. Yeah.
So can you because people will think, right, well, I'll fucking go at it, work through the night and all the rest of it through the week, and then I'll catch up on Saturday. I'll just fucking sleep for 16 hours. Does that shit work?
I don't think so. I've never been able to sleep for 16 hours. Have you?
Not since I was even when I was a baby, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't think it works. I've never. It takes a few days to feel good again, to get that back. It's not that simple. Yeah. But again, if you do something like that, you're doing it strategically, and then you're taking the recovery aspect of it, seriously, then cool. That's not a bad thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're doing it week in, week out, then that becomes a problem.
So, if you're, you say, right, my wake up time is going to be 6 a.m., but then you have an event, say a wedding, you go out to, you don't get in until 2 o'clock in the morning. Would it be best then to stay in bed a little bit longer and fuck off that wake up time and just catch up on a little bit of sleep? Or would it be better to kind of just stay in your routine and still commit to getting up at 6 a.m.?
Yeah, I reckon probably commit to getting up, but maybe a bit half and half, maybe get up a little bit later, I mean, for me, I don't use alarms anyway. I wake up naturally. So when I'm awake, I'm awake. I'm like, cool, okay, I'm up. But yeah, I certainly would be trying to have big, long lanes, because then that will affect you for the following week. It will take you the rest of the week to get back to that. So it's better to be a little bit tired for one day than to fucking put yourself a little bit drained for a whole week.
Yeah. So and you would liken that to jet lag?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's the same as taking a long haul flight and fucking being up through the night and then being in a different time zone, and the clock's different then, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. A massive part of what I do is resetting people's body clocks. It's big. You have to do it all the time for my clients. Luckily, I can do it for myself, which is well handy.
So one of the things you hear a lot in the personal development world is you should be getting up at 4:30 a.m. and smashing your fucking shit before everybody else gets up. Is that healthy? To get up at that kind of early, is that necessary? Or are people doing themselves a disservice?
Yeah, I think they're doing themselves a disservice,
Yeah?
It's just the way that, I mean, some people like that kind of thing. If they function well, then great. But I think most people, depending on what time they go to bed as well, I guess, really, But I don't think they probably don't get any more done. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. But yeah, I would say it's a disservice. Because if you're up kind of before 6 all the time, your body's still going through processes that it needs to be going through. It's not necessarily,
Because it's still dark.
Exactly.
So if you're getting up before, 2 hours before it's light, then your body's still trying to do shit that it should be doing while it's asleep, but is...
Yeah.
So would it be less able to do that then because you've now kick-started your awake cycles and you've got more energy that's diverted into that, and so less available to the shit it should actually be focusing on?
Yeah. Essentially, yeah. It's less regeneration time, less repair time, which somewhere along the line is going to become a problem, isn't it? But I think we're always going to be on some level out of whack with our circadian rhythm, because the world we live in, the whole of society isn't set up for that. So now in the winter when it gets darker late or lighter later, It's not like we move our working days to suit that.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be something, I think. It's just a case of finding the happy medium, doing the best that you can in the world that we live in.
Yeah, because in the winter, like winter here in the UK, sun sets like what, 4? It's 4 o'clock, 4:30. It's fucking dark. So like, try going to bed at
like that,
4:30, 5 o'clock.
Yeah, man. Yeah, totally.
You good, mate?
The other thing is, yeah. What time?
12 minutes past 12. What time you got to be fucking off?
Yeah, we're good. We're cool. We're good. Yeah. So the other side of it is exposure to the elements, right? So we have, because when it's dark, it gets cold, and then we're exposed to cold more, and that has physiological effects on us too, right? So in countries where there is not a lot of light, so let's say Norway or somewhere like that, where it's dark for months at a time, it gets very fucking cold, and they're exposed to the cold, and that has physiological effects too. And there's kind of a balance in that, right? So like, people talk about vitamin D exposure from the sun. Now, if it was just vitamin D exposure from the sun was all we needed, then countries like that, people wouldn't be able to exist. They wouldn't be able to live.
Yeah. Or they'd be fucking sick a lot of the time, right?
They'd be sick, exactly. Yeah, they'd all be fucking killing themselves and shit. It'd be a nightmare. So, yeah, it is important. But the problem we have, right, is that we live in perpetual comfort, essentially, right? So how it would work in a more prime or natural setting is we would be out in the sun most of the fucking time, could be outside doing whatever, and we would be absorbing all the stuff on the skin, and the body would be doing whatever it's doing, and we would also be eating a fuckload of food. Now, vitamin D is fat soluble, so it'd be getting stored within the fat, and then in the winter, when it starts getting darker, what would happen is food wouldn't be as prevalent. The cold encourages all that stored fat, the white fat, to then be turned into more brown fat, which is more metabolically active, which means it can be used much more, which also means it is then releasing that back into the system, right? Which is how this cycle can persist in colder countries. For us, we may get a lows, we may get a little bit of vitamin D, we may get loads, and then we may put on weight, and then in the winter we put on more fucking weight and it doesn't come out. And we don't get outside, we don't get cold. Makes sense?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a cycle, and there's links. It's not like it's just light and dark. It's light and dark, it's also hot and cold.
Yeah, because other stuff going on. I suppose it's a tough one, isn't it? Because we've evolved so quickly technologically and societally, you know, in terms of, you look at where we were even fucking 50 years ago, you know, there wasn't the internet, there wasn't mobile phones and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, go back 500 years and we were doing some pretty different shit. But then when you look at how much our physiology, how much we've evolved as physical beings, right? Our biology in that time, it's nothing, you know. It would take perhaps thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, in fact, to produce those kinds of dramatic physiological changes to adapt to that kind of shift that we've seen in society.
Yeah, we can't keep up. Yeah, epigenetics like happens fairly quickly compared to the original genetic evolutionary model. There are changes to our environment, of course there are, but our environment's changing a fuck lot quicker than it is. Yeah, definitely, and it's going to cause problems, you know. And, you know, talk about mobile phones and stuff. Do you want to go back to the blue light thing I was saying earlier? Because it's so disruptive to our physiology, our endocrine system, well, everything and anything, that is a problem hugely, right? Now, this is a big one, and we're going to see a lot of problems moving forward, is kids on screens at a very early age without blue light filters on, disrupting their physiology, right? From a very early age, people giving phones to babies. He loves it, but he's very overstimulated. So there's a lot of kids going to grow up. A, they haven't learned how to move properly. B, they've been fucking bombarded with light, so their physiology is proper out of whack. You know, look, I'm very blessed that I'm from the generation where I used to masturbate to magazines. Right? Kids growing up nowadays are glued to mobile phones. It's like, it's very, Like seeing those kids grow up as adults, like fucking hell, they're all hunched over. They've got no muscle tone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you see that a lot, man, don't you? With fucking like kids these days and teenagers that are all kind of scooped over like this. The shoulders are all pulled forward, and you're thinking, shit, man, how's that going to manifest in 20 years?
Yeah, exactly. Hormonally, they're disrupted. They're soft. It's scary. It's a scary fucking thought. Add to that the constant overstimulation. Yeah.
So given that technology is such an intrinsic part of the modern world and how we live our lives, and it's not going anywhere, is it? Let's be honest. No. How can people? What can people do to protect themselves against the ill effects of that shit?
Yeah, so the most important thing would be get blue light filters on all backlit devices. Most of them come with them anyway, some kind of nighttime setting.
And that's like a setting inside the settings in your phone or your iPad or whatever, right?
Yeah, or you can download an app like nighttime mode.
You're not buying like a piece of blue paper and sticking it over your fucking phone or something.
You can get physical ones as well. Yeah. You can. So that'd be like my first protocol is block that shit out. Unless you're somebody who works like with design or something like that, we need to see the full colours because it changes the colour tone a little bit.
Yeah.
Blue light blocking glasses are also really useful. They're like orangey things.
Oh, okay.
At night, I'm a big fan of that. Getting away from screens early, you don't really want a load of blue light in your face after 8 o'clock, really, So really just trying to, at night, you'll be a little bit more around the darkness, candle light, something like that. That's really useful. So that would be my first protocol. Earthing the fucking shit out of you, that is super, super important. I would be making sure people are earthing daily, absolutely daily, non-negotiable. Get outside, get on the grass, touch a tree, whatever, or get yourself some earthing kit. You can get earthing kit online, which plugs into the mains.
Oh, okay.
And it attaches normally to like some kind of conductive material, like a mat, or like you can get like bracelets that you put on with metal bits in.
Yeah, I've seen the earthing mats.
Yeah. Get bedding, all that type of stuff.
How long would you spend doing that daily? If you recommend it daily, how long should people be doing that shit for?
Minimum of 15 minutes or half an hour, but really just fucking the more you can, the better.
Yeah.
I would say with the earthing kit though, I don't trust the mains. It doesn't feel quite the same to me,
Right.
But my stuff, I do have it, but I just literally plug it outside the window into the grass, and then I can earth myself regardless of what the weather is.
Cool.
Because it's just conductive. As long as you've got something conductive between you and the earth, you're fucking good.
Yeah.
So I've got a window coming in, which is pretty cool. Like a window, like wire coming in. I just sit there earthing myself, settle down, get all that good stuff, get rid of the bad stuff. Cool as fuck. Big fan.
Because that'll be something that holds a lot of people back, I guess, especially in colder climates. Like, I ain't got fucking standing outside with bare feet for half an hour, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pissing it down outside. Yeah. When you can, just do it like put your hands on a tree or lean against a tree or like even make like railings, metal railings, right? That you get like around parks or whatever, because they go into the ground. It's metal, it's conductive, it's good,
Okay, cool. So how much should people be we're talking here specifically around nighttime routines. Like, should you be managing your exposure to that blue light during the day as well? Like you talked about the blue light filtering glasses. Like if you're sat and you're working at a computer screen 8 to 10 hours a day, would it be advisable, obviously unless you're a designer and you need to see the true colours, but would that be beneficial to you as well to be limiting it through the day?
Absolutely, 100%. Yes, definitely. Yeah, and you can get apps on computers as well. F.Lux is a good one.
Okay.
Which works on desktops, so that's pretty cool. You can get blue light blocking glasses, which are clear ones. They're not too bad in the day, but in the night time they wouldn't be that good.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. Syncing yourself to the environment, because we are massively linked to the environment.
So that would be your two big things for people: is limit your blue light exposure and get grounded.
Yeah, and fucking learn to meditate. Create some space in your neurology.
Let's talk about meditation for a bit, because again, this is something that a lot of people struggle with, because the predominant thought is you got to clear your mind, right? You sat there and you're fucking zen and there's no shit going through your head. But in my experience, that's not what it's all about. So I'd love to hear from your point of view what meditation is.
No. So meditation is really, it's learning to disassociate from your mad ramblings of your mind, essentially, because the mind is a shit stirring dickhead, right? And it'll just it'll create all kinds of shit, right? So learning to just switch off from it and let it do its thing without the emotional attachment to it and all the stuff that goes on is an amazing thing, you know. If you can get really good at meditating, then you can actually get to those Zen states, which is really nice. But meditation, it's really about dropping down out of the brain waves. So the brain is, I can never remember which fucking direction is it. Is it delta waves? So it's about dropping down into alpha waves, right, where the brain is more settled. And then we have, I think, theta sleep. I can't remember which way it is.
Yeah, I've heard of theta.
Anyway,
I can never remember which ones do what, though.
Yeah. I think theta is sleep, and there's one below that. Alpha is like more meditative states, like lower end meditation. And then you've got, guessing delta, is the higher end stressed brain, essentially.
Right. So
we should not be living in a stressed brain all the time. So the idea is to lower those brainwaves a little bit so you're not going through all that, being neurologically overstimulated, right? But the other side of it is when the brain is in a stress state, it kicks out a lot more light in terms of how the cells hold on to light and electrons and stuff. So it means, in the long and short of it, it means that it's much more stressful on an oxidative level. And one of the ways to measure oxidative stress is they'll stick you in a dark room and they'll measure how much light you emit, like a little fucking photon measurer.
So we as people emit light?
Yes.
So like little glowing balls?
Little glowing balls of various different kinds of light, whether it be infrared, fucking ultraviolet, whatever.
Right.
So yeah, we're emitting light all the time. The more light we emit, the more stress the body is under. So the more light we can hold on to and absorb, the better the body functions.
And is that something that people can measure in their own homes? Have you got to go somewhere professional to get that done?
Oh, that's all that professional stuff.
Yeah,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be well cool. I would well want one of those. Yeah, it's one of the reasons to meditate is it slows down the brain waves, which stops you kicking out so much and stop losing so many electrons and so much light from the system.
Okay. So 2 questions then. How much meditation should people ideally be aiming for? And how the fuck do you meditate?
Okay, so how much ideally? Fuck knows. Depends how much you can do. You know, I tend not to really go with how much, because if you start throwing figures at people, they start freaking out a little bit when they don't hit those figures.
Right.
They stress themselves further. Right. So the more the better, ultimately, but it's got to be something that is doable and fitable into their lifestyle, even if it's just 5 minutes here and there or 10 minutes here and there. Do you mean whatever it is? So
5 minutes would be a nice kind of, if you can just do 5 minutes at a time and start from that and build up.
Exactly. Yeah. If you can set yourself that and then work your way in, even if it's just doing like square breathing, just breathing exercises, you can focus and slow it down a little bit. That'd be cool.
Square breathing.
So square breathing, you would focus your breath on, let's say, a 4 count. So you would breathe in for 4, hold for 4, but an open hold, not a closed hold where you're closing your throat. Keep it open, but a gentle hold. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you breathe out for 4, and then another open hold at the bottom for 4. So there's no actual. It's open. Yeah? Make sense?
Yeah.
That'd be like, so it's like a square. So 4, 4, 4, 4.
I get you.
So it's like square breathing, or 3, or 5, or whatever, depending on how good people's lung capacity are. That's quite a cool way, a real simple way of just chilling out, and because it gives you something to focus on, you don't have to worry so much about the brain kicking off all over the shop. But one of the big things about meditation that people messes them up, right, is the brain is a shit stirring dickhead, and it's gonna run its pattern. It's gonna play no matter what. So there's going to be times when you're meditating that you can focus, that you can empty, that you can clear whatever it is you're trying to do. There's going to be times that the brain is going to come in with that chatter. That's just how it is. Yeah? The point is that you just let it chatter, and then whenever you notice it, you bring it back to whatever you're focusing on. And what a lot of people tend to do is they notice it chatter, then they think they failed, and they get frustrated and they give up. But that's just part of the process. That acts of noticing it, acknowledging it, and then bringing your focus back, that is what it's really about. That is where the magic happens in the brain.
What do you bring your focus back to?
Depends on what you're meditating on. Like, for instance, it could be square breathing. Do you know what I mean?
So you'd be focusing on that pattern of the breath, so counting.
Yeah. yeah, that's an example. It could be, maybe it's a guided meditation, like those headspace apps or something like that. That could be your focus. You know? It could be, some people like to focus on a candlelight or whatever it is. You know.
So do you rate the apps then? The like the headspace? Because I've used stuff like that. How do you rate those?
Yeah. I think it's a good start.
Yeah.
It's definitely a good start. It's better than nothing. It's not so bad, you know. I'm a real big fan of heart coherence meditation. That's kind of my favourite thing right now. That's
heart coherence meditation?
Yeah, big fucking fan of that shit.
What? To just explain that for everybody.
So heart coherence, right? So the heart has a massive electromagnetic field, right? It's been measured at, I think it's 11 or 12 meters the last time it was measured by this company called Heart Math Institute. I think they did it all over in San Francisco.
I've heard of them, yeah.
Yeah, so the heart has a big electromagnetic field, bigger than anywhere else in the body, like way bigger than the brains. Now, the heart, also 90% of the information between the brain and the heart is going from the heart upwards. So what that means is that the heart has a lot of neurons in it as well. So the active cells of the nervous system. So the brain is made up of neurons. You know, the spinal cord is made up of neurons, and the heart has a lot of neurons too. So it has its own intelligence. It's not just a beating thing, right? Now, what that means in terms of function is that the heart perceives stuff from the environment electromagnetically. It perceives the internal state of the body. And then what it does is it will feed back to the brain about what needs doing. So, okay, brain, this is what's going on. Do your fucking shit, right? Because the brain's got all the knobs and the dials and switches. The brain operates. That's what it does, right? So think of it like the heart is the CEO and the brain's a manager. But what happens is the brain and the heart become very out of sync in terms of the waves, you know, like brain waves, alpha waves, all that type of shit. So when there's not coherence, what happens is the brain will operate shit based on what it thinks is right. And the brain, as we know, is a shit-stirring fucking dickhead, right? So the brain will be messing with all our physiology without actually acting in sync with the information it should be getting.
Right.
When it's at this higher stress state all the time. Yeah. So when you can get the two down, you lower the brain down and you're in sync with your heart. You're a lot less stressed, but also your body functions better, and there's a sense of calmness just to your day. It's a beautiful thing.
Wow.
Intuitively, you pick up on stuff more because you're synced into the electromagnetic fields and the environment and your state, as opposed to what your brain is saying. Right? The body never lies, but the mind will deny and justify.
So when people say you should follow your heart, like you should fucking proper follow your heart.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's some real stuff there. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Wow.
Big fan.
So if you've got if your heart's creating this magnetic field that's stretching out, so like 12 meters you said?
I think it's 11 or 12 meters, yeah.
Right.
And that's as far as the machine goes, so potentially it could be bigger than that. They used to think it was 3 meters and they got a new machine. It was, oh, fucking hell. More.
Yeah, because I've heard 3.6 meters banded around, so that's interesting that they've measured it even more. But that's really interesting, because if you're all creating this magnetic field and you're like in a room of people, right? Like you're all even if you're standing meters away from each other, you're energetically in each other. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's some pretty cool shit.
We know when you walk into a room and it feels off before you even looked at people.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So there's definitely some vibes to that.
Yeah, when you get like a feeling of how, like, you know, if someone's in a bad fucking mood, like you can just pick up on it like that, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's much more to our senses than just what we can see and hear, you know. And there's that experiment done with all the monks meditating at once in I can't remember what city it was, and the crime rate dropped.
Oh wow!
Because there was such a concentration. Yeah, I can't remember where it was. It might have been Detroit.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting shit.
So that's your preferred type of meditation. How do you actually do that?
Yeah, so look it up. That's what I'd say. Look it up. Yeah, go on the internet, look up heart coherence meditation. So heart coherence meditation, the best way to do it, how I do it with people, with my clients and stuff, is to really focus your intention on the heart. So you have to set yourself down and be ready to calm a little bit. It's not going to kick off straight away, do you mean? But really start focusing your intention on the heart and your focus and your attention on the heart. on the beats, and then kind of on the space around the heart. And then once you kind of settle down, you start feeling it a little bit in sync. Then you would focus on a more positive, heart-based emotion, should we say, such as gratitude, joy, love, right? Stuff like that. Because then you feel that kind of warmth in the heart. So really focus on that, and really on expanding that and proliferating it through the body and outwards. And that's kind of really how you do it.
Okay, so rather than focusing on like something like the breath, you'd be focusing on a feeling centered in the heart.
Yeah, exactly that. And then expanding upon it, because gratitude and joy and love, they're beautiful things. They're very empowering, strengthening emotions, which we're very disconnected from. And by love, I mean like proper love, as in the love for another human, the love for your kids, doing something for love. I don't mean the romantic version of love where you're in love with someone, which is much more of a different thing, isn't it?
Yeah, get you. Cool. So you've got a fucking book.
I have got a fucking book.
What is your book called, son?
Yeah, my book is called How to Undo the Shit the Modern World Does to Us.
And what inspired you to write that?
I don't know, really. Just fucking seemed like a good idea. I did I needed something to enable me to spread the word of shit that I'd learned, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
Right. Because all my work was 1-to-1, then that was problematic from a business perspective. So it made more sense, and it enabled me to go around and teach shit.
Awesome.
That's kind of the aim of the game. So my whole goal really is this stuff that I write about in that book, in particular, the grounding and the light. I've learnt more stuff then because the book's over a couple of years old now, that I think every human being needs to know, in order to thrive in this modern world. So that's kind of the aim of the game. So I feel like so two fields, right, which are massive in my life, which completely changed my fucking life from being a fucking junkie to who I am now, is the health and fitness field and the personal development field, right? But those two fields, they can be very intimidating to people on the outside, whether it be visually from like Instagram, people fucking ripped and shit, or in the language that they use. Sometimes they can be a little bit inaccessible, or also like the personal development field can be a little bit happy, clappy, woo woo, or that type of shit, which other people can find off-putting. So I think my whole goal really with that is to educate people with some shit they really need to fucking know, but also to bring the two fields together in a way that isn't so off-putting, because the fields are fucking great. They're amazing. They're so important, but they are a little bit like preaching to the converted. All the people that need it are getting lost.
Yeah. So for the people who are listening now, listening to the download of this, why should they buy it? What are they going to learn?
Other stuff. Other cool stuff. You get to learn the Gareth principles, or the old Gareth principles, but they're still fucking cool. There's other stuff that you won't know yet. Yeah, so just teach you how to be healthy and happy in the modern world without getting so fucked up by it, because health and happiness aren't random. We're not going to randomly become good. We've actually got to work at it.
Yeah, you got to put some effort in.
Yeah, I'm just going to move this over because I've got sun right in my eyes. I'm not squinting at you.
I thought it was my dazzling good looks, Gareth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, that was it. That was it.
Cool, man. So, where can people get hold of your book?
Amazon. It's on Amazon. Yeah. Kindle, paperback, however you want it. Audible too. You can listen to my sultry tones.
And do you read the book on Audible?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Good fucking lad. That's always so much better when the author reads the book, isn't it?
Absolutely, I think so. Yeah, it seems weird otherwise.
Yeah, awesome. And if people want to learn more about what you do and perhaps working with you, if they've got some shit that they need to unfuck about themselves, where can they find that?
Yeah. If you've got some chronic issues, some neurological scrambling, you're feeling fucked, come find me. Gareth Riddy on the internet, all over it. Facebook, Instagram, fuck Twitter, I don't bother with that one. LinkedIn, Gareth Riddy or at Gareth Riddy. That's me. There's only one other Gareth Riddy I've seen on the internet, and I'm the cool one.
You're the good-looking one.
Yeah. I'm the more prolific one.
Yeah, awesome.
So find me. Yeah, hit me up.
Great.
Got issues need to be solved.
Well, I'll stick all the links in the show notes. So if you're listening to this and you want to learn more about what Gareth does and maybe get in touch, get a copy of his book would be a great way to start and go connect with him you're on Facebook and is it Instagram and LinkedIn and all that kind of shit?
Yeah, man. Yeah, come find me. Come play.
Awesome.
Have fun with Gareth. Be amazing.
Fantastic. Yeah, so go connect, go find out more. And I'm sure you'll agree that the stuff that Gareth shared with us all today has been life-changing.
I like to think so. I hope so.
No, it's been brilliant, mate. I was really looking forward to having you on the show today and talking to you about this stuff. Not just because you're real as fuck, but because you're obviously someone who's been there and done it. You know, you've been through a lot of this stuff yourself, and you really know your stuff and you really care. And I love that about you. So fair play, mate.
Thanks, man. It's been a fucking pleasure.
It has. Thank you very much. Take care, and I'll see you soon.
Right. Cheers, dude. Thank you.
And that was Mr. Gareth Riddy, ladies and gentlemen. What a fucking pleasure to have that gentleman on the show. And go and get his book, because the stuff he's talked about, I mean, I've heard about a lot of that kind of stuff before, and it is life-changing stuff. You know, it's nice for me as well, because it's a nice reminder that I should be doing more of this stuff. And I've meditated on and off over the years, but not so much recently. Or at all recently, if I'm perfectly honest. And it's just nice to have people like Gareth on who are so genuine, so honest, and who know their shit to remind us of the things that we should be doing to live better lives. So go and check that out. Next episode is going to be, let's have a quick look. Should have prepared and got this up first, really, shouldn't I? We have, funnily enough, we have the chap that Gareth was mentioning in the podcast today. We have Mr. Carl Pate. He's coming on next week, so he'll be on the next episode. And Carl's another really genuine, really cool guy, and he is Mr. Productivity, I suppose is the best way to describe him. He's built this really great kind of app platform to help people be more productive and kind of manage every area of their lives, and he just helps people get shit done, which is something that you know, even I struggle with sometimes. And I'm pretty prolific, and I know how to motivate myself and get stuff done and achieve great things, but you know, we all struggle sometimes. And if we can come up with some more ways or learn some new tricks and tips and hints and all that kind of shit to help us do even better, then that's all for the good, right? So I know that Carl, know Carl through business, and I know he's spoken at certain masterminds that I've spoken at as well, and had some really, really, really good feedback. So definitely go and check out Carl Pate's episode when it's out, and I'm looking forward to having him on the show. So that is it for now. Don't forget to, 3 things. Go and like and share, and look, if you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with as many people as possible. We're already being downloaded in over 40 countries all over the world. Not huge numbers, but still, that is fucking phenomenal. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for supporting the show and listening and supporting what we do here. But if you've enjoyed it, please take action. Go and share it on your Facebook profiles, share it on LinkedIn, just get it out there, share it with your family, share it with your friends, because it's stuff like this that can really make the difference for them. And also go and leave a review. Go onto iTunes, hit the leave a review button. It will literally take you about 30 seconds just to write something nice, leave us a 5-star review, and just tell people what you've got out of the show. Why did you love it? Why do you listen? Because it helps. You know, there's so much stuff, so many podcasts, so much content out there these days. The struggle is not that we don't have access to information, it's that knowing what information to consume, right? You know, when I give my talk, I talk about how I've done the maths on how many books I've got left to read, and I read about 50 books a year. If I live till I'm 100, which would be pretty decent, I'm in my 30s now, I've only got 3,500 books left at that rate. So that's pretty scary. You go and look at search how many books there are on Amazon alone in the business section. It's hundreds of thousands. So you've got to be super diligent in what content you are choosing to consume, because you've only got so much time on this earth, right? So when you leave a review of the show, it really does help to boost the profile of the show, get it out to more people, and just give people a reason to check it out, give people a reason to invest their time in it. So I'd really appreciate it if you haven't already. Go and leave us a review. Thank you. Secondly, go and download the Bulletproof app. If you're in business, if you're in construction in business, if you own a contracting business, a cleaning business, if you're contracting or doing anything along those lines, there's some pretty fucking cool stuff in there already in terms of daily planners, week planners, accountability statements. There's all kinds of forms that you can get in there and use right now. It's totally free. It's a social network in and of its own right. I'm building out a 90-day accountability plan in there as well. So if you go and download the app, just send me a message on there. Tell me that you want in on the accountability plan, and I will fucking activate that shit for you completely for free. It's all about taking action and getting results, right? And that's what the app is there for. I mean, predominantly, I was thinking, right, well, this is a great tool to help serve my coaching clients, my business coaching clients, in between sessions, so in between when I physically get to go and see them, and in between the workshops and the masterminds. It gives me a way to stay in touch and stay in contact and make sure that the things that they learn and the things that they agree to do actually get done, because that's where the magic happens. It's there for that, but also for, if you're just interested, maybe you're just starting, maybe you're not ready to come on to one of the masterminds or one of the accelerator programs yet, then that's absolutely cool. Just get in the app and use the fucking tools anyway. That's what they're there for. And listen, I'm at just over 111 users there now, so not massive numbers, but what I have committed to is the first 1,000 people that come into the app, you're going to get fucking everything in there completely free for life. And that's pretty cool, because even the app as it is now and the tools it has are amazing. It's still in beta test mode. The company that I'm working with to produce this, Expert Apps, they've got some pretty cool stuff coming in the pipeline, and so it's going to be take what it is now, times it by 10, and you're still nowhere near how powerful this shit's going to be. So get in there and get that downloaded. Bulletproof, just search it on the App Store. I might even see if I can put a cheeky little QR code somewhere in the show notes so that you can just scan that shit on your phone and get in. And also, if you want to support the show, then you can do so by making a small monthly donation. Just helps keep it real, keep it ad-free, helps to fund the thing. So it takes a bit of effort to put these shows together and get the guests and prepare and edit them and put them out on iTunes and all that kind of stuff. So it just helps keep all that shit going, man. So if you want to support the show like that, then you can do so. Just go to patreon.com/optimize me now, bro. Cool, that's it, guys. Until next time, keep it real, stay optimized.